Yes, yes, yes. Welcome into another edition. It's Thursdays with the Third. It's becoming kind of a specialty over here now. We got a weekly segment, don't we, on the Root for Sports podcast. Don't we, my man, RWIII? What's happening, babe?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, it looks like this is it, man. This is going to be Thursdays with the Third. We're going to do this every single Thursday until the world ends, which may be happening soon if the Mayans are right. So we better get them in while we can. You know?
Listen, I have like 7 shows to tape on Thursday, but I put them all on hold for this. So.
All right, awesome. I appreciate that. Thanks, man, because I'm glad you're here, bro. I'm glad you're here because we could go Miami style, and we'll go New York. We're going to hit it up again. But let's start with Dwight Howard, which is a little bit more north of you in Florida, in the Orlando area. But I'm really surprised, as I'm sure is most of the population, that he ended up staying in Orlando. It's my thought that maybe he does want to stay there, maybe he doesn't, but he seemed like he had a lot of pressure on him to stay. And he doesn't seem very happy with his decision. Whether he is or he isn't, it's not showing body language-wise. What's your take on the whole thing?
I mean, I made comments on Dwight Howard last week about how I wasn't really into all the talk about where he wants to go, this, that, list. I have lists. I want to go here. I want to be the man. Just a lot of talking. And then last night, it just came to a even crazier point where it's, you know, I want to stay, I don't want to stay, I'm going to sign, I'm not going to sign, and all day I just have to deal with this until I get to watch this press conference where all the guy did was agree to play to not opt out, to play one more season.
Right.
First thing he says is, I'm happy it's over. Nothing's over. It's all starting again next summer. Like, what is over, you know?
Right, exactly. It's all starting all over again. He's going to have to deal with the same thing next year. It's a great point.
There's no extension. He didn't sign the 3-year the 3-year Carmelo when Carmelo got traded to the Knicks. Like, so nothing's over. And then the last thing that he said it got me to the point where I had to, like, I'm happy the phone call wasn't at 4. He says he's just too loyal. And to me, I'm just shaking my head like, there is no loyalty in sports anymore. Like, let's just forget about it. Like, Peyton got cut. The Nuggets traded Nene today. Like, there's no loyalty. Like,
right.
If you want to be the man and win, Orlando doesn't seem like the good fit because Otis Smith has had 7 years, and what has he gotten you? Gilbert Arenas and, like, just not a lot. So
I'm with you.
I just don't agree with it.
Yeah, you talk about loyalty. Even Derek Fisher was traded today from the Lakers. That opened my eyes. I wonder how
forget the idea of loyalty. Like, if you want to be a true superstar, you have to make decisions for yourself as a business, as a brand, as an athlete, to put yourself with an organization that is going to help you win. And Orlando has had a long time to put pieces around him. And the team is just flawed. Like, they had a big win against the Heat. You know they're not going to make it in the playoffs, and they'd have to beat the Heat and the Bulls in consecutive series. Like,
right, most likely, yeah. You're right. They would have to play both of them because of the seeding that they're going to be in. Bulls and Heat are going to be 1 and 2, so they wouldn't play each other until the Eastern Conference Finals if that does work out. So you're right. The Magic haven't shown Dwight Howard that they're willing to build a championship team around him. Howard took him to the NBA Finals a couple of years ago, and they fell short to the Lakers and everything, but he didn't have anybody there. You talk about guys like J.J. Redick, and I like Jimmy. Nelson's a good player. I mean, no doubt about it. But who else? I
mean, so they signed Rashard Lewis to a max contract, which that guy should never be getting max contract.
Exactly. That's ridiculous.
He traded with the Suns for Richardson, and it's just a bunch of pieces that weren't the right pieces. So what makes you think at this point they're gonna build around you? It was just the whole situation has been weird, and it's been. A lot of it has been brought on by him, and how the way he handled it, and it seemed like it was natural that he was going to leave. He was going to try to pair up with somebody and really dominate, because as a big man, you need someone else. Like, him and three-point shooters is not going to win championships. He had a chance. He earned his free agency. He doesn't have to be loyal to anyone, and he didn't want it, but he didn't sign the extension either. So just get ready for more of this in 2012.
Right, I agree with you. And yeah, just to close it out real quick again, I like Dwight Howard. I feel like he's a good guy, and he was in another kind of LeBron situation, and he even referenced him in his press conference, saying that it's a tough decision, but you got to do what's best for you. And I felt just like he didn't want to be, exiled from Orlando in that way. And every time he comes back, he'd be booed and he'd be hated by, the rest of the NBA and everything. That's kind of what I felt coming out of him. And if he was given the chance without having any repercussions one way or the other, I would bet that he would have left Orlando already. And look, he put himself in a situation.
Is this really with all these things? Like even that point, like, is this the guy that you want to build your team around? If he almost doesn't want that role, like, he almost doesn't want if he doesn't want people to boo him when he goes back to the stadium, he doesn't have the mental toughness to be the man on the team anyway. So fine, stay in Orlando. Maybe Otis Smith will get you somebody. I don't know who the free agent class is next year, but I haven't heard I don't think Darren Williams is going there.
No.
So
yeah.
if he ain't that kind of player, then he can be in Orlando and see what happens, or we'll just have to go through this all again next summer.
Exactly right. They're going to have to get somebody, and you referenced it. He needs to have another, scoring type of guard on the team, and that's, I always go back to the
this guy, in the last 3 years of playoffs, he has scored under 15 points 15 times. Like,
wow.
What other dominant center with no peer does that? And it's because he has no help.
Wow,
Want to stay in the system that is keeping you, like, as the main star. A lot of it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, way to break out the stats there. I do like that. Very nice.
I had to get one of them because I just remembered watching playoff games where you see Dwight Howard and there's no center go like 8, and you're like, wait, how is Dwight Howard going 8 points, 8 rebounds? It's mind blowing, and it's because he can tell.
You got a good point. Yeah, I mean, you're right. They've only, big men, they usually go to the finals all the time. He's only been there once. He got knocked out in the first round last year against Atlanta. So, maybe he doesn't have that mental toughness. Good point. Somebody else who didn't have mental toughness, and he just basically said it, is Mike D'Antoni. He said he couldn't handle Melo. The relationship wasn't working out at all, and he resigned. He just couldn't handle it anymore. I mean, it was inevitable that he was going to get fired anyway, but look, he just took, I don't know what road. I don't know if it's a high road or a low road. He just took the road out, whatever it is, and he's gone, and however you want to call it, I guess the Knicks rally around it in some way and come out with their biggest win of the season last night against Portland and really just blow them out. And I'm going to get your thoughts on it in a minute, but all I want to say is that we spoke about how the Knicks and the Heat have very similar rosters with great talent all over the place, and the Heat don't run any specific type of offense, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they basically just go down the court and whoever's open they give it to, and they kind of penetrate and kick it out, whatever it is. They don't run any sort of either triangle offense or a D'Antoni type of offense or pick and rolls and screens and everything. They just go out there and play, and that's what the Knicks did last night. They just have a bunch of good athletes, let them go play ball and see what happens. And I don't know, am I wrong about that with the Heat?
Well, the one thing you're not, it's no like set system that they run. When they're at their worst is when they're playing the way you're describing. That's when the Heat are at their worst. When it's like, okay, it's my turn. Oh, it's my turn. Oh, wait, now I'm just going to shoot threes because I feel like it. We're not going to move the ball. I'm going to hold the ball on the wing and then drive, pound it into the ground. Like, That's when they're at their worst. The thing with the Knicks, though, where I have to be a little careful is they had their win streak. Right before D'Antoni was going to get fired, they had a nice little win streak. When Lynn came in, everything blew up against, some less than good teams. During their losing streak, they've played a bunch of top-notch teams, and they lost. So D'Antoni quits. The next game they play is a Portland team that's completely falling apart.
Right, yep.
And they demolish them. So I don't even know. I think the Knicks' problems is so much bigger than just a coach at this point. I think it even goes right to the top with Dolan and Walsh, and I just don't think. I see a lot of names, and I know I was feeling the names last week, but maybe it's just not the right pieces. Maybe the names are just bad at this point. They're names, and I don't think Phil Jackson is going to come touch that. Like, he's too smart to come mess with that at this point. So I'm not even counting on him. So I don't know what it's going to take to fix that mess. But if I'm Phil Jackson, I'm staying as far away as I can from the Donnie Walsh Dolan combo.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's an interesting take on it. All right, it's the opposite of what I'm thinking. Donnie Walsh isn't as involved anymore. It's really just Dolan's team for the most part, and that was.
And that's even worse then, because Dolan what has he shown that he's capable of doing?
Nothing.
That Isaiah Thomas run the franchise into the ground for like 7, 8, however many years it was.
No, you're absolutely right.
I don't think there is a fix for the Knicks at this point. I think it's a fundamental problem with the team structure at this point. And I mean, I know we talked about, and you brought up last week, Jerry Sloan, but let's think about that for a second. A 70-year-old mayor is going to come in and do what with that roster? Like, what is he doing with that roster when his last year in Utah, him and Williams couldn't even get along? So I don't know if that's the answer either.
Well, hey, I don't know if it is the answer, but we know that Mike D'Antoni definitely wasn't the answer, and he believed it also, so he's out. But it's my belief that when you have a bunch of stars like this, that it's not much of it. It's not necessarily an egotistical thing with them. It's more of just you have the talent and you need the right guy to have that respect earned and given, immediately where they're going to listen to him. They didn't listen to D'Antoni. It's obvious.
Yeah.
You bring in a guy like Jerry Sloan and Phil Jackson, you're going to listen. I mean, that's the bottom line. That
you might, but like Jerry Sloan, his last year in Utah, him and Darren Williams had a lot of problems. So maybe he is a little too far removed from this generation's players to be able to come into that mess of a Knicks situation and be like, here we go, guys.
You can't put that all on one player. You're talking about just one guy in Darren Williams where he had a problem with where he, Karl Malone is not the easiest guy to deal with in the entire world, let's be honest, and he dealt with him his entire life. Look, maybe you're right. Maybe the game is past Jerry Sloan, but it's going to take that type of guy to come in and fix the situation. But, I don't know. Mike Woodson, maybe. I don't know. He took Atlanta to the playoffs a couple of times. Let's see what he's got.
That's the thing. Why did he take Atlanta to the playoffs 3 times in a row and then get fired? Like, you remember some of those playoff series that Atlanta had were some of the most uninspiring basketball. So we'll see about Mike Woodson. Jury's still out on him.
Right. He's more of an interim coach, I believe, at this point. I think the Knicks are going to do whatever they can to get Phil Jackson. It's just a matter of whether or not he wants to come.
You know Phil Jackson is one of the not only greatest coaches ever, but he knows how to pick his situations. He wasn't there with, didn't he have that little spell in L.A. where he didn't coach when Shaq was gone and it was the struggle and then he came back?
Yeah, he left for a year. Exactly right.
He knows how to pick his situations, and I can't see him coming out of retirement. I was thinking about this today. I would put money on him if the Heat don't win a championship this year, going to Miami over going to New York. At this point, that's how I feel about the Phil Jackson situation.
Pat Riley and Phil Jackson working together, oh my God.
Hey, why not? Like, if Spoelstra doesn't win it this year, people are going to start freaking out. And that seems like a team that plays defense, that is a little more structured with Riley running things. I'm throwing that out there early.
I think people will be freaking out a little bit more on LeBron and not so much Spoelstra if they don't win the championship.
People got to pay, though, and they're not going to cut LeBron. So
no, they're definitely not going to cut LeBron, and that was the thinking behind the Carmelo Anthony D'Antoni situation. It's like, who are you going to keep? A decent coach or one of the best scorers in the game? There's really no contest there. There's just not. The guy makes a lot of money, and you sign him to a big contract, just like James and just like Wade and everything. And look, you try to get for what it's worth, and we'll see. Speaking of what it's worth,
you got to try to make it work over there.
Yeah, you have to try. Let's transition real quick. Speaking of big money and everything, Big Mario Williams got big money today. I mean, I thought that the contract was going to be maybe like 75, 80 million, but we're talking 100 mil. This guy's making quarterback type money. I think it's $16.5 million a year, and that's what Calvin Johnson just signed for a couple of days ago. That's big time cash for a defensive end. I mean, it's almost unheard of. Julius Peppers is the only other one I know that has made that sort of money with that
got that huge contract, but that didn't work out too well.
Yeah, I mean, Julius, he's a very good player, no doubt about it. An excellent player, but I don't know if he's worth that kind of money. I think it's ridiculous. So, look, the Bills, they're trying to put themselves back on the map because as far as everybody else is concerned, they don't even know it's in New York, Buffalo. They think it's in Canada somewhere. So, look, Mario Williams, he jumps on, the wagon.
He was the first pick in the draft. He got a huge contract for that.
Yeah.
He lived up to it. All in the doubt about him, you can't take him over. But he lived up to it. He's one of the best defensive ends. And if you're Buffalo, and the NFL now you need receivers and you need pass rushers. So you might as well get as many pass rushers as you can, because if you can stop these heavy passing teams, you can make runs. So they went for, the money thing, is $100 million. I don't see him as loafing it. I see him as looking up to it. The free agent that I think is the one that I'd be going after is Mike Wallace. If I'm the Patriots and I have 2 first-round picks, or I'm the Ravens and I have a late first-round pick, I'm signing that guy. Like, taking away from the Steelers and getting him, like, I'm a huge Mike Wallace guy. I think he's a great receiver.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised, actually. You know what? I'm hearing that there's really not even that much interest in him. I mean, there are teams interested, but not willing to throw the big bucks at him. And I'm a little surprised, too. I mean, maybe he's looked at more of a one-dimensional receiver where he just goes down the field.
Though.
No, that's the thing. I agree with you. He isn't. People need to realize that he can do other things. If you look at that Super Bowl against Green Bay, he was big time, especially in the fourth quarter. I mean, he was a big reason why Pittsburgh even had a shot in that game. So
yeah, and think about this: he's played a decent amount of his career with backup quarterbacks because of the Roethlisberger injuries and suspensions, and he still puts up numbers. So to me, Baltimore and New England, it just makes so much sense. If you're New England and you have 2 picks at the end of the first round, how are you not giving one of those for Mike Wallace? That offense with the tight ends, Wallace, Welker, that might be better than the one that went undefeated. I mean, think about that. That power offense.
That would be pretty. Oh goodness, that would be pretty sweet. And Randy Moss was part of that power offense, and now he's a 49er, which I just can't even believe. I'm a diehard 49er fan, and I have mixed feelings about it. I just started following him on Twitter to see what he's got to say about my team. So, look, I don't know. Like I said, Alex Smith really doesn't have the arm to get it to a Randy Moss type, who is that one-dimensional receiver who just runs down the field. So, I don't think it's a good match. I mean, do you see anything positive?
Even if it's a sexy name, and it's always fun when you get someone who's a name, but if you go back and look at some of Randy Moss's last couple of games, like even 8 or 9 into the last season before he got traded, you could see the fall off. Like, he still got the touchdowns, but as far as receptions and yards, the numbers have been declining for a while. So, I don't know, maybe he took a year off, maybe he'll run go routes and catch them, and it'll be great, but I'm a little skeptical just about 35-year-old receivers who run one route.
Exactly.
Have been declining for years, but It's a great name, and it could only help. It's not like they're wasting a lot of cap space on it, so why not give it a shot?
No, you know what? I guess why not? I mean, the only thing that motivates me is the fact that he may be motivated. Coming back to football, it seems like he wants to play.
He may have forgot that Alex Smith was the quarterback and thought Jim Harbaugh was going to be throwing bombs.
Oh yeah, well,
I don't know what that session was like. It must have been amazing.
I bet you. Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, he's got another thing coming if he thinks Alex Smith is going to be throwing 60-yard bombs down the field, because it just is not happening. And to close it out real quick, speaking of throwing bombs down the field, Peyton Manning deal speaking of flip-flopping like Dwight Howard, this thing has gone all over the place. Now all of a sudden the Tennessee Titans seem to be the front runner out of everybody.
I love that move. I don't even care about the Dolphins anymore because they're such a joke. Like, it's just, I don't even want him to be a part of this.
Good, I'm glad you said they're a joke.
I love lifetime contracts. Like, whatever that means, I love that. Like, I want him to have that.
I love it. I want him to have that. Yeah.
What is that? Like, I don't even, like Bud Adams is strolling around Tennessee just saying, listen, if you sign here, it's for life. Whatever that means. Owner, coach, offensive coordinator, GM, come on. And you saw who they signed today, right? They got Hutchinson.
Steve Hutchinson, yep, that's right.
That one's gaining a lot of steam. And if, maybe they get Jeff Saturday for one more run and they make a go of it. But Washington, Britt, Johnson, like that's a pretty decent offense to me.
Hey man, look, I agree with you 100%. When I wrote about a month and a half ago on the website 5 teams that Peyton would go to, 5 teams that he wouldn't go to, and one of the teams that I thought he would go to was Tennessee for all those reasons that we spoke about, plus the college thing. And yeah, it makes sense, especially in a division like that where the Colts are nothing. Houston obviously is a pretty good team, but they got the injuries, and now Mario Williams is gone. Jacksonville is crud. So yeah, why not? I mean, they could win the division.
Hey, listen, I know he doesn't have. It's not like his only goal is revenge, but I'm sure it'll be sweet to go into that dome that he built and play his old team. I'm sure that'll be great for him. He's still a prideful guy. As classy as he is in that press conference and the way they handled it, he has pride, and he wants to go in there and be like, "Hey, Reggie Wayne." Remember we were supposed to do this together?
Right.
I'm going to shred you apart.
No, I agree with that. And all great athletes have that. They have that chip on their shoulder, and that's what makes them great for a long period of time, because as great as they can be, they just want to get better and better forever and never stop, and Peyton has that. He's got that gene, no question. No doubt about it. So look, we're going to have to wrap it up now because we're running a little short on time, but we will come back. We got a fantasy draft coming up soon, so we're going to talk some baseball and stuff. Free agency is still rolling, so we'll see where Peyton ends up, and we're going to bring the third back in next Thursday for the Thursdays with the third, my man.
I'll be here. Hopefully there'll be no more heat fourth quarter disasters, and I'll be more cheery about that.
Yeah, really. I meant to stay away from that today on purpose because they couldn't even beat the Bulls without Derrick Rose, so that's an embarrassment.
I appreciate that. John Lucas's son is older than him somehow. I don't know how that happened, but that guy he looks just like his dad, and he was killing us. So
that's great. That's hysterical, man. It's just a rough one. It's just a bad loss. We'll see what happens. Anyway, so we'll see you next Thursday. We'll talk next Thursday, and we'll get it going then. I'm sure there'll be a lot of hot topics to talk about.
All right, man.
All right, my brother. Be good.
Bye.